forward. Join me now in the Read Revolution.
Hey, happy Friday to you. I'm John Reed. You're watching the Read Revolution on this Friday morning. Very glad that you are able to carve out some time in your day to spend with us. Lots of news today. It looks like the Congress is kind of going to stop fighting Donald Trump at least a little bit on the TSA funding. You know, he's issued an emergency order to pay these people. God, I wish we'd done that 2 weeks ago. I mean, the Democrats don't care who they hurt in order to make their political point. And their political point in this case is not a legitimate political point. The point they're making is we should neuter ICE and not enforce federal immigration law anymore. Well, I got news for you. Donald Trump was president the first time because of this issue. And he's back in the White House because of this issue. The average person really is fed up. The average person who grew up, who was born here, grew up here, I don't think it's a racist thing. I think it is hey, I got to make some money. This is my country. I'm not going someplace to escape my own country. You need to protect me as a worker. And there are a lot of Democrats who feel that way too. There are a lot of Democrats who want to make sure that they're first in line for the job in their own country. You know, hey, it's great that we've got the H-1B visas. It's, I don't know. People don't want to work at the restaurant at Virginia Beach for the summer. That's weird to me. I mean, good God, I would consider doing that. Go work as a lifeguard for the summer. That seems like it would be a really great break. If you're in your 20s and you don't take early 20s and you don't take, or your teenage years, and you don't take one of those opportunities to make a little bit of money, have a good time, be outside, do a low impact job, go ahead and do it. But, when you've got a wife or a husband and a family, you've got to make money. You've got to earn enough money to pay your existence. And we're undermining ourselves because we keep importing people who will accept a lower wage than the average American worker. I mean, I get it from a business perspective. You want to cut your costs, but it can't be at the expense of the American worker. I'm sounding like a Democrat. I'm just standing up for the American worker. Why are the Democrats telling a union like the TSA that they don't care whether they get paid? Why are the Democrats putting Americans who are trying to travel this spring for, Easter and other holidays, spring break, why are they saying we don't care whether you're inconvenienced? I mean, at some point, I'm counting on the average person to wake up and go, wow, when you think back to the way we were treated during COVID and the fact that certain people were given passes, but everybody else was inconvenienced, the way they wrecked the economy deliberately to try to win an election, what they did last year by keeping the economy closed, complaining about it, saying it was doing a lot of damage, but then not voting to open the economy so that they could win an election. And then in putting it in context that if you didn't take their drug, their vaccine, they have no problem bankrupting you, jailing you, making you unemployable. You can't move around in your own hometown, your own home state, in your own country. They got no problem stomping all of your rights. I mean, are you going to get mad about that? I think at some point you need to be mad about it. And I'm not going to go so far as to say that you should behave like a Democrat and go into the streets and hurt people or trash somebody's building or car or set something on fire. I don't think we should do that. But you sure should be motivated to vote and send a message that you're not going to tolerate this anymore. And the latest example is Democrats who are complaining constantly about workers, and then they expect TSA to show up and not get paid. I think that's wrong. I don't think that's the right thing to do just because you've got a problem with ICE. Or, maybe you're right. I think you're wrong, but in the end, maybe you're right. Are you going to make these people suffer in order to make your point? Why don't you make your argument and take care of people in the interim? and they don't care about the average person going through the airport. So good for the Congress, at least the Republicans in Congress, backing up President Trump to get these TSA workers paid. And you know what? If you are traveling this weekend, I was originally going to be traveling this weekend, but then I pulled the plug. I just don't have the patience. I don't have the extra money right now, but I certainly don't have the patience to deal with this garbage. I don't appreciate it when people make my life harder to make some sort of political point. And I'm as political as they come. I don't appreciate that. Makes me angry. So a couple of my friends who traveled this weekend to the place that I was going to go this weekend said that they made a point to deliberately stop and thank the ICE officers who were relieving at least some of the stress in the airports. I mean, it doesn't help the TSA folks who can't feed their kids and can't make their rent or their mortgage payment. It doesn't help them, but at least ICE has showed up to guard the entrance and the exits at the airport and deal with some of the administrative stuff or the basic things so that we're not stuck. So if you were there and you're like me, you don't have hostility towards ICE, I think you should give them a big thumbs up and tell them, because they're getting the middle finger from all these leftists. So, tell them that you appreciate what they're doing. Now, as we continue on the program today, I got to watch my time here because we're going to wind up, being on the air till 2 o'clock this afternoon if I'm not careful. In a little bit, we're going to talk to Paul Teller, the executive director of Advancing American Freedom, just get an update on what's happening in Iran. I think that's important. Congressman Ben Cline stops by. We will talk to him about the Scott Presler tour related to the gerrymandering issue in Virginia. And if you're not watching us in Virginia, I know you're probably getting a little tired hearing about the vote no plan and this gerrymandering referendum, but you need to pay attention. This is one of the cases where what's happening in Virginia, if the Democrats win if the yes vote wins, then it's almost guaranteed that the House of Representatives flips Democrat. I mean, before we even get to November. I don't want to say forget it, because you can't. I mean, there's still races to win. I mean, it could be a total disaster if we don't win the ones that we're counting on. But this is bad news. If the Democrats and worse than the momentary flip of power in the House of Representatives, which would be bad, because that all they're going to do is attack everybody who works at the White House now. And try to rack up their legal bills and damage them and derail everything President Trump's trying to do, because they hate him so much. And they hate you too. You may not feel it, but it's not just about Trump. They hate you too. If they win, it signals that this kind of illegal process, because the Democrats here in Virginia did not follow the law. They did not check the box. They didn't look at the calendar and do things by the rules. The courts are just too pathetic and weak to step up and hold them accountable for obeying the rules. It's like the refs have left the field. Okay, good. Play the game. We'll figure it out on the back end. So, I mean, I don't respect that. I expect you to be engaged. And if you tick somebody off, I mean, I live my life ticking people off. But I'm trying to tell the truth. And if telling the truth upsets people, well, that is more reflective of who they are than it is of me. So I sleep well with this attitude that I've got. I'm trying not to tell lies. I'm trying to make sure that the truth is exposed about things. And I think I'm pretty good about labeling my opinion versus things that are factual, so that people can discern the two. The Democrats have totally wiped that away. And if they win with the ridiculous, manipulative, deceptive language that they put on this ballot, and the millions and millions of dollars that are being funneled into Virginia, if they win, that's a bad sign for the future of the country. Not just in a practical sense right now, but long term. And I don't blame you if you're saying, God, I don't want to hear any more about this gerrymandering thing in Virginia. If you live in North Carolina, you're one of the people watching us in New York, or it's odd to me how many people are watching us in California. Gosh, what time is it? 7 o'clock in California right now as we do this program. but there are people who are watching us in California. I get it. You're probably a little fed up. You're going to have to hang with me through April 21st when the election happens, because this is going to impact you too, unfortunately, if the Democrats manage to pull this sham off and push through this gerrymandering scheme. Let's see. Ben Klein is with us today, and then Tim Anderson will kind of recount some of the issues that he's seeing with the gerrymandering debate in Virginia and some of these court cases. You know, there are a lot of people, not just in Virginia, but across the country, are very worried about gun laws and the abuse that Democrats keep perpetuating in not just Virginia's General Assembly, but in legislative bodies all across the country. And they've basically said, we don't give a damn what the Supreme Court has said. We don't care what the courts are ruling as it relates to the Constitution. We're going to pass these laws, and then you spend a couple of $1 million in 2 years adjudicating the laws. In the meantime, we will craft the bureaucracy around the erroneous, unconstitutional laws, and we'll make a couple of you felons. And the end result is that you'll give up. That's what they're counting on. They're counting on you giving up. I mean, it's one reason after my loss last year, I had to come back and still engage in this, because I'm not going to be pushed off my base, my home base. I just can't allow the bad guys to do that. I certainly can't allow bad guys who weren't even born in the United States, weren't even born in Virginia, got no connection to this state. They just showed up, and they've ridden this wave with the leftists towards power. I take exception to that. I don't appreciate that, especially when you're not on board with the common values that we've had here for generations. If you're rejecting that, if you hate the founding fathers, you hate America, you hate Virginia, you hate me, don't expect me to roll over and act like that's okay. I don't think it's okay. And I'm not going to tolerate it. And you can call me any name you want to. Call me racist. You can call me a bigot. You know it's not true. So go ahead, knock yourself out. If you think that's going to back me up one bit, you got another thing coming. I hope that the last year or so has proved you're not going to push me off of what I think is right. And I wish some other people would stand up that same way. Yeah, I'm taking big risks. I think you need to take a little risk to save yourself as well. Now, look, I wanted to spend a little bit of time before we talk to Paul Teller about Operation Epic Fury and share with you this video that I think producer Dan has queued up that Iran released. And it's artificial intelligence. It's pretty sophisticated, and it tells a story. And I think this is the Iranian perspective. It's very manipulative. It's emotionally manipulative. But they think, and they are trying to perpetuate the myth that the United States is the source of all problems in the world. They've got a reason for that, because they're Islamic radicals, and they want Islam to take over the world. And they want to kill you or have you submit to Islam. That's their goal. That's their goal. And Americans don't understand that, because we're not a hyper-religious people anymore. I mean, I don't think we were ever to this extreme in the country. But, I mean, even when we were burning witches, the Salem witch trial, I don't think it was this crazy as what we're dealing with these whack jobs, religious fanatics who are adherents of Islam. I mean, everybody who's a Muslim is this way, but it's concerning. And you need to open your eyes to it. And it happens enough. I mean, you know, you're not going through the TSA line today because you're worried about a Catholic nun strapping a bomb to herself and blowing up an airplane. You're not worried about that. If we're being honest, there's only one group that consistently does this type of thing, and that's why we're going through TSA. I think at some point you got to ask yourself, now wait a minute, we're doing all of this because of this collection of people, and it's, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think somebody did a visual one time, which was pretty convincing to me. If you took 100 M&Ms or 1,000 M&Ms or 10,000 M&Ms, and you said one of these M&Ms is poison and it will kill you, would you dig in and just start eating the M&Ms? Or would you walk away and say, "Yeah, I'm just not gonna eat these M&Ms"? As much as I love M&Ms, you may be able to tell. I, I like M&Ms, but if someone were to tell me, even if it was 10,000 of them, one of these is deadly, and if you put it in your mouth and you swallow it, it's going to kill you. I think no matter what my chocolate urge was that day, I would probably pass. Not going to do that. So, what are we doing as a culture and a society where we can't even acknowledge the problem? Acknowledging the problem. I'm not talking about treating people poorly. I'm not saying go out and treat innocent people poorly. I'm not saying be rude or judgmental to your neighbor. I'm not saying that. I think the first step, though, is to acknowledge we got a problem on our hands. And this video, which is now circulating all over the internet, is pretty important for you to see on a bunch of different levels. But one of the reasons that it's important is this is what's influencing young people in the United States and around the world. And I'm a big believer in free speech. You can do what you want, but I have free speech too, and I can watch videos like this and see this is not a debate around the perimeter of what the United States is doing. This is a direct statement that this group wants to destroy America. And they're trying to raise an army to do that. And they want to raise the army right here in our own backyard. And you know what? I think they're accomplishing that on some level. And I think we're going to have a rude awakening that's going to really be shocking. I mean, I think I'm somewhat aware of it. A lot of other people are totally unaware of it. They are still living in a Hallmark card world where, oh, everybody's nice. Occasionally there's a bad thing, but in general, everybody's nice. No, they're not. No, they're not. And I have this awful feeling that I don't know if it's this year or next year or sometime in the next decade, we're going to deal with people who have been radicalized to hate America and they're living in America. And it won't just be a debate about taxes or labor union policy. It will be how many of you white devil Westerners can we kill? And since I'm white and I'm a native of the country and I'm pretty conservative and patriotic, I think I'm going to be one of the targets of that. I'm not going willingly. So just want to lay that out there. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not going to take me down because I'm so stupid or passive that I'm going to accept it. So let's play this Iran video. I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's weird. Some of my friends who I think are normally plugged in had no clue about this when I shared it with them yesterday afternoon and evening. And I think it's pretty effective. I mean, really, if I can step back from the fact that it's a threat to me, I think it's actually a pretty effective AI video. Here, producer Dan, if you can show it, I think you'll be worried about this once you see it. One vengeance for all in English and in Arabic. What do you think? I mean, honestly, if it didn't impact me, I'd say it's a pretty effective ad. I think it's bull. to blame the United States for fighting a war against Japan and put up Hiroshima and Nagasaki and act like we're the bad guys for that. But it's effective for people who weren't living through World War II. I didn't, but I am going to side with the United States over and over again. For people who don't feel that allegiance, including a lot of young people in the country who are American, who have been brainwashed and convinced that the United States is the source of all evil in the world, this is a pretty effective ad. And I think it convinces a lot of folks we deserve it. Whatever happens to us, whoever gets killed, whatever buildings get blown up, whatever planes get blown up in the sky, we deserve it. That's what they're saying. And I find that outrageous. I reject that completely. But look around. Not everybody's going to reject that. I think a lot of people are actually going to embrace that message, who are here and living in Richmond, Virginia, and in New York City, and in Los Angeles, California, and in Waco, Texas, and in Fort Lauderdale. I think there are a lot of people. And I'm being harsh with the Islamic community in many of my conversations. It's not just them. Yeah, I don't think to be clear, I don't think everybody in the Islamic community feels this way. I think there's a growing number of folks that I'm worried about in that community, if I'm being honest. But it's not just them. You could have some 18-year-old or 25-year-old, or quite frankly, I seem to keep running into these 60-year-old women who are berserk, who hate me because I'm a Republican. There's an entire group of people who are American who hate their own country now. And if you step back and you pull some objective analysis of is there a reason for that? I don't think so. I'm not whitewashing it and saying everything's cool, no problems, we've never had issues. I'm not saying that. But are you at a place when you look at the totality of American history where you conclude that we deserve to collapse, we deserve to be abused, Americans deserve to die? My answer to that is no, absolutely not. And I think there are enough people in the country who are trying to put us in a better place. Now, we're debating on how to do that, but their motivation is to make us better, not to punish us for the past. And you've got to discern the difference between those leaders, Republican and Democrat. If you love America and you want to make America better, I'm willing to engage with you. But if you hate America and you think that somebody's got to collapse this society so something else can replace it, oh, hell no. I'm going to fight you over that one. And I don't think we're being discerning enough about the people we're electing. There are people who are at the state capitol right now who I don't think are happy to be Americans. I mean, they're probably happy to be in America instead of in their home country, which Donald Trump would probably label in a not very nice way. They're happy to be over here. They're happy to enjoy the infrastructure here. They're happy that they've got political power. But I get the impression there are a lot of people who do not actually love the country, and their goal is to change it. Now, I'm going to be kind of mean about it. If you came from an S-hole country, I try not to speak the same way President Trump would, but let's be honest, there are places around the world that you would not want to live. You might want to go visit, you might go on a missions trip, but you probably wouldn't want to spend 40 years of your life wondering whether your drinking water is potable or not, or whether, I mean, we're headed towards this, whether you're going to get stabbed to death while you wait for a bus in front of a dirt road. That seems to be the direction that we're headed. Why is that? I think it's because we're putting our faith and leadership in people who come from those societies. And I mean, it's crazy to me that that's who we're entrusting with our society. Like, to put it in terms that people might actually care about, I don't give a damn about football. I don't care about football. Alonzo loves football. He studied it. He can answer any question about any team for the last 40 years and probably beyond that. My dad was the same way. There are a bunch of people I know. Football is their life. They really, really care about it. They care about their favorite team that they feel like they're a part of. That they wear their jersey on Sunday, and then they care about the NFL. They care about the other. They can comment about the other teams. Some teams they love, some teams they don't love. But if you were to put them into a leadership role with on any level with anything to do with football, they care about it deeply. They want to make it better. They want to make it more successful. They love every second they spend associated with it. That's not me. I would be terrible in one of those roles. That's not, you don't want to put me in that role. I wouldn't care, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't do harm, but I wouldn't be effective in those roles. I think to take that story and apply it to the government of Virginia and to the government of the United States, you're not only putting people in who don't know what they're talking about because they've never been around a successful, stable government. I think we've actually put a bunch of people in leadership who hate us. It's not just not caring; it's disdain and hatred for this society. That's not going to end well for any of us. You can't be ruled by people. You can't be governed by people who hate your society. And that video, which is getting tremendous traction all around the world and in the United States, is another indication that I think there's an active effort to cultivate an army of people who want to destroy our own society in our own society. I mean, I used to be worried about who was coming in. I guess I still am, immigration-wise. Who's coming into the country? That's worrisome. But maybe we also need to worry about what's happening in our own society and what we're going to tolerate and who we're going to put in office. All right, we'll talk about Operation Epic Fury. And my conclusion is we need to bomb them into oblivion, and then they never have the ability to put another video out on the internet because they're worried about whether they're going to have potable water. I know that's awful. I'm so sorry that that's the conclusion I've reached. But you know what? 47 years of terrorism, that's where I am. We'll talk to Paul Teller from Advancing American Freedom in just a moment. Stay with us on the Reed Revolution.
April 21st, a special election will be held for Virginia voters to decide who draws our political district lines. Will it be the current nonpartisan Citizen Commission, or will it be Richmond politicians with their own dark and secret political agendas, shifting lines every cycle, confusing the voters? They call this the Fair Redistricting Amendment, but it's anything but fair. Vote no on the unfair amendment on April 21st.
Authorized and paid for by the 5th Congressional District of the Virginia Republican Committee.
All right. And you know what? The guy who did that video also has this new country song that a whole bunch of people have heard of. And he's done I think it's an AI video of him. I mean, I almost feel like trying to see whether you would buy that he's a country Western singer, because the song that he's written saying vote no seems to be very popular in certain circles. I would love to have that go to the governor's office, and the little Ayatollah Ghazala Hashmi, the lieutenant governor, have them, opening all of their email, and suddenly they're confronted with this country Western song about voting no. You should take the opportunity. Today's Friday. Go by your early voting location and bank your vote. Get it done now. It's all on the line here between now and April 21st. All right, Paul Teller is the executive director of Advancing American Freedom. I'm sorry for leaving you hanging for a second there, Paul, but I wanted to show that video.
I'm enjoying listening.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, had you seen that before I played it, the AI Iran video?
No.
What's your reaction to it?
What's to say? But by the way, what we really should be saying is I actually really strongly agree with what you just said at the end. You apologize for it, but isn't the only answer now it's just total unquestioned victory, right, in Operation Epic Fury, right?
So what's going on? The president keeps talking about 7 days of negotiation, 10 days of negotiation. They let 10 ships through.
Right.
I don't know. That does not make me feel good. I'm sure the United Nations crowd likes to hear that talk, and maybe he's playing a game with them. But The worst thing that I think could happen is we kill all of these people, and we've put the world in turmoil, and we've asserted ourselves, and then in another year or two, we've got an even worse ruler, and they go right back to creating another nuclear bomb, and who knows how quickly they would get that.
Yeah, no question. And let's face it, it's almost like when you're, trying to get weeds out of your yard, right? If you just kind of trim the pretty flowers off the dandelion, it's going to grow back. You got to get down all the way to the root. I mean, I think that's what I think President Trump wants to do. He also is a trusting person, right? So I think he's trusting that, okay, maybe there is a deal to be made here. Let's see. I don't think he's going to give them, endless amounts of time, but let's give it a shot. And maybe there is actually a deal to be had where, the leadership has changed, weapons go bye-bye, there's American and Israeli inspectors for weaponry and all kinds of stuff. Maybe there is. I don't know. I'm with you, though. I'm skeptical. I don't think there's a deal to be had. I don't think the Iranians truly want a deal. They're buying time. They're faking it. These are just,
and that's their pattern
intentions
over 40 some years, right?
Yeah.
They buy time, they fake it. Oh yes, you can come see this factory or this lab. Oh, but we're not going to walk you across the street. And then there's an international scuffle. But in the meantime, they're hiding things from us. I mean, you can't trust anything about these people. They are determined to kill us. And at some point, when someone's made that so clear, with thousands of people, hey, death to the West, American devil, we're going to kill you. I mean, you got to take that seriously. That's not an aberrant idea. It's the mainstream philosophy of these people.
No, and that's the thing with murderous dictators throughout history. They actually do tell you, right? They give you kind of advance warning. Hey, guys, here's what I want to do. Here's what I'm about to do. Here's what I'm doing, And like you said, it is time that we listen. It sounds like the president is listening. Others are listening in the administration. And that's, I think, good news for world peace. It's certainly good news for peace in that region, right? I mean, you've even got Arab nations saying, hey, we're glad this is happening, finish the job, and look forward to increasing peace on the other side. So, yeah.
That's a very important point. As somebody who lived in Kuwait and Bahrain and was, throughout the Middle East doing business for several years, when Barack Obama was president, and there was a target on my back, the Iranians had put, I was told, $50,000 reward if you capture an American businessman like me.
Wow.
And if you kill a cop, even another Muslim who was a cop in some of these countries, the Iranians would pay money to the person who killed the cop. A lot of these other Arab nations, they don't like that from Iran. So what's going on behind the scenes with the rulers of those countries?
No, that's an excellent point we need to bring out for your viewers as well. Is the Iranians are not just firing drones and missiles at Americans and Israelis. Sure, that's quote unquote understandable. They're also firing it at their Muslim neighbors. The Saudis, the Jordanians, the Iraqis. I mean, you name it. Almost any country that is within missile reach of the Iranians has gotten some sort of missile or drone. And it's, I got to be honest, to me, I don't fully understand that. Like, to me, they're just making even more enemies out of people who maybe would even be on their side or at least neutral. They fired missiles at maybe just drones or whatever, but at Oman. Oman's like the Switzerland of the Middle East, right? They kind of play both sides. They're neutral, and they're hitting Oman. I mean, to me, that makes absolutely no sense. It just shows you, A, how desperate they are, but B, just how they have hatred not just for Americans and Jews, but their fellow Muslims.
What do you think the real numbers are about the deaths of the murders, not just deaths, the murders of people who got crosswise with the Iranian regime? I don't trust anybody's numbers. And so, and I hate to say this, I don't even trust when the Department of War sends a number out. I just don't know whether I can believe it. There's too much propaganda out there.
Right.
Is it 10,000? Is it 50,000? Is it 100,000? Do we know?
I'm with you. It's hard to really know. Other than I think we can both guess that whatever number or whatever range of numbers are coming out, it's probably higher, right? Because how do they get the information, right? If there are just people killed in kind of remote rural areas of Iran, are they really tabulating that and calculating it right? This is not like some, American census style thing. It's hard to know how they are even getting this number. So it's probably, greatly higher than whatever they're reporting.
The reason I bring that up is there seems to still be hope that somehow the regime, led by whichever Ayatollah is currently anointed, who's still breathing, that the regime is going to collapse and that there will be a new group of leaders who will step up. You know, the Crown Prince, the son of the Shah, I've seen him at a bunch of events in D.C. over the years. I think he's speaking at CPAC in Dallas, this weekend. So I'm very curious as to what he's going to say there. I'd love to be able to talk to him about this. It doesn't sound like there's mobilization behind bringing him to Iran and having him be the new leader of even a temporary government. Do you think that the regime was successful at murdering anybody who had the guts enough to stand up to their oppression, and now we're kind of stuck?
I mean, let's face it, they're right. There's fewer of them, no question. It's hard to believe that they've all been taken out, right? Because first of all, there's probably some that maybe weren't active but are ready for that moment to become active when they feel like it's safer. They've got assurances that, they come out on the streets and they're not going to be mowed down, that kind of thing, by the regime, Iranian regime. So, yeah, I think there's still a lot of hope. There's just, millions of Iranians that are yearning for freedom, and we'd gladly love to kind of restore their country to the greatness that it was, right? This was not some backwards Afghanistan style country. This is an educated population. And I think
it was. When you look at the pictures in the 70s, wow,
right?
It looked like a Western city. Not that my standards have to be the standards around the rest of the world. I mean, I enjoy traveling to countries where I get off the plane and I go, wow, I'm really in a different place.
Different, right.
I mean, as long as they're not going to throw me off a building or
Right,
incarcerate me in a basement and waterboard me and torture me.
Well, that would be like in Minnesota. They do that too there.
Some bad guys in our own country.
Yeah.
Let me bring up what I talked about in that monologue, and I know you deal with domestic policy as well with advancing American freedom. Am I being too paranoid to suggest that we're losing the fundamental groundings of our society and that there is an effort to create an insurgency, if you will, amongst our own population? Is that me being paranoid and reading too many internet theses late at night?
Well, I mean, the one thing I'll say is, many of us here at Advancing American Freedom and elsewhere, we do travel around the country, right? Just trying to find allies wherever they are, parachuting into state capitals and collaborating and learning and listening. The good news that we find once we get out of the swamp, here in Washington, most Americans are just regular folks that just want to live their lives, go to work, raise their family, have friends, enjoy a nice meal, that kind of thing. And they're not thinking, every day about politics, which is a great thing. And when they are thinking about it, they're not necessarily on Twitter yelling and screaming and cursing at somebody else. And they're just, even if they're disagreeing, it's in real human to human terms, in person, and, respectfully doing it for the most part. I'm sure there are exceptions, but the Twitterverse, I think, is not really how the average American is existing. So yeah, we hope that there's not really some true revolution coming that you could sometimes sense on.
I just worry because, Seattle, I've always assumed Seattle was way to the left of where I was. My sister lived there for a little while. I used to go out there, and I knew that people didn't share my political beliefs, but okay, it's the West Coast. They're crunchy granola, pot smoking people. I'm stereotyping, but they just don't match up with me. Okay. When I lived in LA, it's the Hollywood crowd. I knew that I was a little isolated in my belief system there. But now, no matter where I travel, Charlotte, North Carolina, to a lesser extent, places in South Carolina, parts of Florida, it seems like there's always a group, and we're going to see it this weekend with this ridiculous No Kings series of protests. It's not a small group. This is a large group that seems to really be hyper-organized. And so today, or this weekend, they're going to be standing on overpasses saying, we hate Trump, no kings, no king, whatever. Yeah. But I don't think it's that benign. I think there's a very active group. And you saw it with the resistance during the first Trump administration, where no matter what the president or the vice president suggested, there were bureaucrats who hypothetically were in positions of authority to execute on the lawful directives of the elected leaders, and they just basically said, "Screw you, we're not going to do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's growing, I think, not going away.
Yeah, I hope it's like exaggerated, meaning like I think it's just because it gets TV coverage, it gets social media attention, kind of thing. But again, just the vast number of Joe Americas out there, it's just not how they live, how they think. I do think it's it's got an outsized attention
Influence.
to it
Okay.
than what you think. But by the way, the beauty of No Kings when we see it again this weekend is the same people who are saying no kings are also the same people who are upset that Maduro was taken out of Venezuela, that we killed jihadist leaders in the Middle East, right? I mean, it's the same folks.
Yeah. No kings, but yes to the Ayatollah. Come on.
Yeah, and frankly, even just their ideology in general, right? The left-wing ideology prides itself on strong, centralized leadership. That's like what they're proud of, right? They don't want a diversity of thought and action and rules. They want everything coming out of Washington or the central, governing place of whatever country. And so the irony of no kings is a little rich.
Yeah. Yesterday I was on a radio program with a lady who is a big No Kings organizer. It's fine. I'm happy. Unlike them, I'm happy to talk to people who disagree with me and try to keep it in a civil sense, the debate. But she was pretty strident that when it comes to the redistricting issue, the gerrymandering issue here in Virginia, that I don't want to put words in her mouth and I don't want to be unfair, but the impression I got was whatever we do in Virginia is legitimate because we have got to stop Donald Trump. And I said, so you're going to stomp on democracy and your neighbor's vote in order to save democracy and preserve your neighbor's vote. What, for some future time? What other rights am I going to be able to stomp on in order to preserve them down the road, ostensibly when you're in power? And that didn't go over real well. We had a conflict. Again, pulling perspective, what is your take on the gerrymandering here and in other states?
I mean, just truly outrageous what Virginia is trying to do. In fact, if your viewers haven't seen this, go quickly find it. It should be easily accessible on the internet, but there's a map of Virginia and how it voted in its most recent election, by color. So you could see where the Republican areas are, where the Democratic areas are. Virginia has that off-year election, so it's very recent data.
Right.
And then you look at what the Democratic map would do to the congressional district. So it goes from the state looking mostly red, if you're looking county by county, to the state looking looking mostly blue. And it's like, oh my God, with a straight face, this is what they're trying to do. It's truly outrageous. And I actually think some Democrats and certainly independents are even upset with this and seeing through it and being like, this doesn't feel right. And couldn't Republicans do the same thing to us if the tide is turned in the future? And so the good news is I keep hearing that, maybe this initiative fails, and that would be just fantastic news for democracy.
Yeah, it's a question on whether the people who didn't turn out in the last election last year do show up, and whether we win over the fair-minded moderates who say, in 2013, the Republicans had the opportunity to do this, and the Speaker of the House, a Republican at the time, said, no, if we're going to win, we need to win fairly. Sure, you can use brute power that we have for this moment to stomp all over everybody, but that's not the way we do this in Virginia, and it shouldn't be even a thought in America.
No question.
But we're electing people who are really pushing.
By the way, if the map that they showed was like mostly blue, and then they want to do mostly blue congressional districts, look,
that's
as
a different
red
story.
guy, I would say I'm not thrilled with that, but okay. When you see it clear as day there, right? Virginia by county is mostly red, and then they want to make the congressional districts mostly blue, just unfair and outrageous.
Yeah. When they're anchoring them in Northern Virginia. Paul Teller is the executive director of Advancing American Freedom. Please stay in touch with us. I'm always happy to spend time with you, and I hope I'll see you in person sometime soon. Thanks, Paul.
Talk to you soon. Thank you again. Appreciate you.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, we've got more coming up. I think Congressman Ben Cline, who is traveling the state, who will be with the activist Scott Presler this weekend, including a big event in Chesterfield County at the Great American Ranch. We'll share those details when we come back on the Reed Revolution.
Here in Richmond, our freedoms are under attack. The Democrats are ramming through a redistricting referendum, redrawing the congressional maps that shift a fair 6-5 representation to 10-1 in their favor. Rushed ahead of this November's election, it's a clear power grab. Your vote no is important. Virginia, we can't afford to sit this one out. So by April 21st, get out and vote no for fair representation. Vote no to defend freedom.
Back on the Reed Revolution on this Friday morning, and I am so glad to be able to talk to one of my friends I've known for a long time since he was at the state capitol in Richmond. Now he's fighting the good fight in Washington. Congressman Ben Cline joins us, and in addition to working on the Hill, it sounds like you're going to be doing the tour of the state of Virginia, telling your constituents about what happens if the yes vote wins here. Gosh, I think rural voters are really going to be shut out in Washington.
John, thanks for having me. It would be disastrous for rural voices in Virginia. You know, I'm proud to carry those rural voices for the Shenandoah Valley and the Roanoke Valley, Allegheny Highlands to Washington each and every day. But when you split the district into 5 different pieces and just parcel these pieces out to districts that are weighted up in Fairfax and Prince William, you're going to get Democrats from Northern Virginia making decisions and really ignoring the voices of rural Virginia because they're going to make up such a small part of the district that their priorities are going to be pushed to the bottom. So it really would be a disaster for rural Virginia. I tell people it's an existential crisis for Virginia right now. It's not just a choice between one Democrat and one Republican on the ballot. This is about the future of Virginia and the future of our country, because if we lose 4 Republicans from Virginia, then we've lost the majority in Washington, and Hakeem Jeffries is speaker. So we can't let that happen.
Yeah. I look, we don't all agree. It's a split state. You've got really urban areas and then you've got rural areas. And for Democrats to talk constantly about saving democracy, and then their solution to save democracy is to deliberately draw maps that make the votes of half the state meaningless. That's a pretty awful way to claim to fight back. When were you in the House of Delegates?
You're right, John. The gaslighting from the Democrats is extreme right now. It is Orwellian, the language about fairness and democracy, when they are doing the most anti-democratic, unfair moves by redrawing these lines. And it was an honor to be in the House of Delegates for my home where I grew up in Rockbridge County, back from 2002 after Vance Wilkins stepped down. This was his seat, and I served there for 16 years until 2008.
So that's what I thought. You were there when Republicans were on the rise and had the opportunity, if I remember correctly, to vanquish Democrats. And, you know, with the new maps that Republicans had the right to draw at that time. And if I remember correctly, Speaker Bill Howell said, look, you know, we could do this and we could vanquish the Democrats, but that's not the Virginia way. That's not how we should behave. And that made a lot of people mad, I think, back in, 2013. Have you been able to tell that story to anybody to try to win over some of the people who are not wearing a team jersey to talk about the fairness that Republicans have already demonstrated?
Absolutely. The great thing about this opposition movement is that it is not just Republicans. It is independents, overwhelming majority of independents who opposed this, who voted for a nonpartisan redistricting constitutional amendment back in 2021 or 2020. And then Democrats are also either, there you have the hard left, the Louise Lucases, the Don Scotts of the world, who are only thinking about political power. But then you have a majority of Democrats who are out across the Commonwealth who also supported this constitutional amendment and who are really embarrassed. I've had Democrats tell me how embarrassing it is for them to have to get twisted in knots to try and argue against something that they agreed to 5 years ago, and somehow justify this really anti-democratic move on their part. So you saw Mark Warner's primary opponent step up, and I believe his name is Moran, who posted that he was opposed to the constitutional amendment, and he, got attacks from his far left, but it's a principled stance. And so I reposted it and said that, this is clear that Democrats, Republicans, and independents are joining together to defeat this.
Yeah. I see that you'll be traveling the state with Scott Presler, the GOP activist who's been all across the United States registering new voters. And, Scott is largely credited for bumping the numbers up to a place where Donald Trump could win in Pennsylvania. And he's a Virginia native. Tell me about the tour and how you hooked up with Scott and his team.
Yeah, so we recognized early on that we were going to need an aggressive ground game to help defeat this. And so I started up a separate group called Stop the Gerrymander, and the website stopthegerrymander.com. And it's a 501c4, but it is designed to increase turnout out in the western part of the state, but across the state. It's a statewide effort. So we have John Pudner, who's an activist, a volunteer, who's come in actually to work for Stop the Gerrymander. He helped deliver Wisconsin for Trump in 2024, and has come into the state to help turn out votes and come up with an operation. And so he's been all over the state, and he's got me going all over the state. So I'll be in the Shenandoah Valley tonight and tomorrow, Harrisonburg with Scott Presler. I'll be in Southwest Virginia tomorrow as well, and then over to Charlottesville, down to Richmond, and points east and north with Scott Presler later in the weekend. But Scott has great ideas about how to excite younger voters and get them energized for the Republican Party, get them turning out for the Republican Party. And that's really what we need here. We need voters who traditionally are not thinking about a referendum vote in April. That's a lot of people right now. Everybody's focused on other things. Trying to educate them, get their attention is going to be important. And Scott Presler has millions of followers online. And so for him to be able to kind of go on social media as he travels across Virginia, it's going to resonate with a lot of younger people in Virginia. And they understand that government, this hypocrisy coming out of the Democrats in Richmond is a reason why Democrat Party is so unpopular right now. Their numbers are just below Republicans, below just about any polling you see. Democrats are in the toilet. And so we hope that Scott will encourage people to come out and vote against this power grab by Democrats.
Yeah. Now, I know you're 100% in on this effort, but when I've traveled around, there have been a lot of people who've asked me about the national Republicans, Speaker Johnson and the folks at the RNC and the Senate version. I mean, everybody up there understands that Virginia is kind of the linchpin if you want to stay alive for the big debate that we're going to have in November. We got to win on April 21st. What have you heard from leadership in the Republican caucus in D.C.?
Well, and Republicans are waking up to the fact in Washington that this is where the majority is going to be made or lost. And so they are directing resources into combating this effort by liberal Democrats in Richmond. We're optimistic that more will come. And now that we see that in the early vote, more of our areas are turning out, and it looks like it's going to be a vote that we can win. We can defeat this referendum. We have more people focusing in on it and devoting resources to it. The Democrats are getting nervous. They've got, their lead funder, individual funder, is George Soros. Yeah. And he's given more as an individual than any other individual giving to this Democrat effort to pass this thing. And you have 20 million plus coming in for Hakeem Jeffries because he knows that he can't win without essentially this kind of cheating in Virginia, drawing these ridiculous maps to kick these four Republicans out of their seats. So the money's there on their side, and the money's starting to come in on our side. We'll be competitive. We won't be up on TV as much as they are, but the TV commercials not only aren't working for them, but I think they're backfiring.
Well, I hope that's true. I hope that's true. I mean, I'm worried about them motivating people in Northern Virginia, but that's why we got to work in Southwest.
That's right.
Get those numbers out.
We're focused in Southwest, and we've got delegates and senators. I was with, Delegate Ren Williams and down in Southwest the other day, and we'll be heading down there. Terry Kilgore is working hard in Southwest to deliver those votes, and we're optimistic that we're going to get people stirred up about protecting what is important in Virginia and making sure the Democrats can't take their representation and their vote away.
Now, the Republicans in the House did your job. You sent the Save America Act over to the Senate. And like so many great ideas and big promises that have been made to the base, that's where things seem to die or get stuck. Tell me what's going on behind the scenes to actually pull this one thing over the threshold into the victory column, you think?
Well, Senator Mike Lee is a good friend, and he's the author of the Save America Act, and he is pulling out all the stops to essentially force the Senate to confront and deal with this important legislation. The idea that you should have to prove your citizenship to register is in common sense. The proof of photo ID to vote is common sense. And so simply putting this law in place, it is going to not only ensure that our elections are fair and free from fraud, but also that it reassures people that they can count on those results. And so, unfortunately, you get some senators who like to talk the talk but not walk the walk. And so he is keeping their hand to the fire and forcing them to take votes on it. And, I think they should have a talking filibuster where they force the senators opposed to this bill to stand on the floor and actually explain why they don't think requiring a photo ID to vote is appropriate. I think that's a winning issue for us, and put them out there and make them oppose the bill. And so, but the problem is that you have some senators that just want to say, "Oh, I'm for the bill," but no, we can't sit down there for days and days trying to break a filibuster. But we're going to keep the pressure on. The president has made it a priority, and the House is passing it. We've passed it multiple times. We'll continue to pass it until the Senate takes it up and sends it to the president.
Yeah, boy, somebody's got to get in there and knock those heads together. The base is counting on at least this getting done before the 2-year window that was a miracle with Trump in the White House, the Senate, all coming together. I mean, this is something that's got to get done. What issue is underreported or not reported that you think we should be talking about, but you just can't get the Washington Post or NBC or the New York Times to cover it?
Well, there's a lot going on right now in Congress with a 3-vote majority. I think we have right now. It's a challenge, but we've got a farm bill that is overdue. And the farm bill that runs 5 years, and we're in the 6th year of the last farm bill. So it's time to renew the farm bill, which provides the safety net for farmers when there are bad crop years, so they don't have to sell the farm to actually continue to farm and have the next generation brought up. Virginia's 6th district is the leading agricultural district in the state, and we feed the nation, we feed the world. So it's important to get this farm bill across the finish line. There's always haggling over some language in the farm bill because not all farms are the same, not all farm regions are the same. The Shenandoah Valley is full of small farmers, independent farmers. Some of them are contracted with some larger turkey providers who they raise turkeys for various companies. But then you have big ag out in California. Instead of just hundreds of acres for a farm, there are thousands and thousands of acres, tens of thousands of acres. So those interests differ a lot, and we have to work those out. But I'm optimistic we will, so we can get this bill across the finish line and help farmers in our part of the Commonwealth.
See, I didn't know where you were going to go with that question, but it's interesting that that's the direction you went. And that's one of the reasons that people need to pay attention to this redistricting thing, because I promise you, and I think you'd agree with me, if I asked some big Democrat who's thinking of running for Congress in Fairfax County, they never would have brought that issue up. Never.
No, I don't know that Dan Helmer knows what a farm bill is, and he knows what gun control is, and he's really taken a lot of credit for passing gun control through the General Assembly this year. And in my part of the Commonwealth, they aren't too happy about it. So
that's not going to play well.
No.
Good. Some folks who are still grounded in the founding principles of the country need to assert themselves at this moment to try to hold on to the state. Ben Klein, our congressman, I enjoyed seeing you the other day in Harrisonburg, and I appreciate you coming on this morning. Thank you.
John, thanks for all you do.
We'll see you at one of these Scott Presler events this weekend. There's one in Chesterfield, too. Thank you, Ben. Yeah. Hey, producer Dan, let's put the graphic up for the event with Scott Presler that's coming up this weekend in Chesterfield County at the Great American Ranch. If you've seen Scott on social media, he's an interesting character. And, you know, he was on with us last week. And I applaud Congressman Klein for reaching out to Scott and saying, hey, your home state needs you. Can you come back? You're doing great work in Pennsylvania and in California and a lot of other states, but we need you in Virginia right now. And this is an opportunity to get fired up about this and maybe bring someone to the event with Scott Presler who wouldn't normally attend a political event. I think it's going to be a very interesting afternoon in Chesterfield County. And then if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see the complete list of all of the places that Scott and Congressman Klein and other activists are traveling all across the state for the next few days through the weekend. And of course, I'm continuing to travel all across the state as well. And I think Jason Miyares is putting in time. So everybody's pulling together to try to make sure that the voters know that their future is being decided on April 21st. Out of the blue, doesn't make sense. No one expects to vote in the springtime. Everyone's thinking about baseball and graduation and the spring coming, but this is really important. And so I'm hoping you will break out of your shell and tell people who might have even a passing interest in politics and economics and gun rights and some of these social issues that a lot of that's going to be decided with one vote on April 21st. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back with more in just a moment. I'm John Reed. You're watching the Reed Revolution.
Republicans and Democrats work together to get politicians out of the business of picking their own voters. 2/3 of Virginians voted for this fair and balanced process. Now, career politicians in Richmond want to end the nonpartisan process and draw rigged congressional maps for friends. They want to end competitive elections in Virginia and silence your voice. That's more than unfair. It's an undemocratic power grab. Vote no on partisan gerrymandering by April 21st.
Back this morning on the Reed Revolution, I'm John Reed, and we're joined, as we are every week, by former member of the House of Delegates and lawyer extraordinaire, Tim Anderson. And Tim is, you're outside the courthouse getting ready to go in and handle some business with one of these judges. I don't want to get you in trouble with the judges, Tim. How you feeling?
Good morning, John, in beautiful Spotsylvania County today. Going in and getting a good result for a well-deserving client. This will be a nice day for me here.
Okay, fantastic. I like that optimistic thought process. That's what I want to hear from my lawyer. If we're about to walk in, please tell me whether we're going to get the ruling we're looking for.
Well, most of my
clients Most of your clients what?
Most of my clients just want to make sure they're walking out with me. They don't care about walking in. They just want to be walking out with me. So yes, that's the big deal.
Good point. Very good point. Walking free. So look, I got my vote no button on today, and I'm going to go drop off my ballot personally at the Henrico Courthouse. And I've been doing a lot of events around the state. I know you've been doing the concealed carry Utah permit classes all across the state. Where do you think we are a little less than 1 month away from Election Day on this?
So there's this self-proclaimed pollster named Chaz Newdicombe, who is a Democrat operative. He works for Ben Tribbett. Ben Tribbett's the guy being sued by the governor's assistant for defamation. And they are really rattling some alarms on their Twitter that there's high turnout in Republican districts, like 135%, 150% turnouts from the this time during the governor's election last year. So there does appear to be a groundswell, large turnout in hard red districts. Now, you might see Scott County, for instance, have 135%, but that's still only, like maybe 600 more votes than what, they may have had this time last year. And in Alexandria, there's a zip code that has 40,000 people. So, we got to kind of take it in perspective, but the left is starting to ring the bell and get nervous. We saw Delegate Simon at an event, and he was like, "We are in trouble, guys. We may lose this thing if we don't get out and vote." So it does seem like the Southwest, which if we're ever going to win a statewide election again, it has to be because the Southwest is engaged. It seems that they are engaged, and I think we are in a real shot here of possibly winning this. Now, don't take anything for granted, but I think we're in good shape with seeing high numbers out of the Southwest that we're hearing right now.
Well, I did an event up in Northern Virginia, in Alexandria, not exactly a red bastion region at all. And there were some people who asked me about the history of gerrymandering in Virginia. Now, I had an upfront seat for it with my dad in the House of Delegates for, I think, 2 redistricting efforts. And, he kind of acknowledged that this is a political situation and it's almost impossible to take the politics out of it. But one story that I've told was, I think, 2013, and we had Speaker Howe, former Speaker of the House of Delegates, on this program, where he said, look, my caucus, the Republican caucus in the Senate, passed a map that looks similar to what the Democrats have done that would have crushed the Democrats. And I personally stepped in and said, this is not what we do in Virginia. And that was before there was a constitutional amendment. Do you think that putting it in that historical perspective where Republicans have already shown a sense of fairness might make some Democrats reconsider whether they're going to go along with the sham?
History matters in this context because Republicans had the opportunity in 2013 to wipe Democrats off the map, on the congressional map. And the Senate Republicans chose to do it. They passed it. And when it got to the House of Delegates, Speaker Howe did kill that. And he said, that's not the Virginia way. We're not going to do that in Virginia. And then here's the biggest part. The Democrat leaders at the time who are now in the General Assembly saying this is what we should do this year, they said that was a courageous move. Those are direct quotes. That was the right thing to do. You should not politically gerrymander one party out of existence in the congressional maps. And so I think it's important to not only say that when Republicans could have done it, they didn't. Some certainly did, and that's fine. But ultimately, it did not happen. And then more importantly, the Democrats cheered it and said it was a courageous move. Now the shoe's on the other foot. And now it's just like, oh, it's just restoring fairness. And if you don't do it, you hate democracy. It is interesting to see how quickly it shifted. And these are the same Democrats that were there 12 years ago that are talking out of the other side of their mouths right now.
Yeah, I mean, the former governor, Ralph Northam, started talking about this. I'm so shocked that Ralph Northam even shows his face anymore after his time in office and all the awful stuff that occurred on his watch and, quite frankly, by him and his team. But what's he saying?
I mean, he's blaming Republicans for all this. It's hilarious. And we're going to see Democrats do this year and next year and the year after. They have some really bad policies. Bad people are going to be coming out of jail soon. We have people that are not going to have to post bond anymore who've committed crimes, and they're going to come back out and they're going to commit crimes. And then the Democrats are going to say, well, that's the Republicans' fault. I mean, we have no power in Virginia, and they're going to say this is all our fault. We haven't had any significant power in Virginia since Bob McDonnell was governor. None. While we've had, control of a chamber or control of the General Assembly, we've never had a trifecta of government since Bob McDonnell. And so when the Democrats have something go wrong, they're quick to say this is our fault. But right now, 100% is on them. And I mean, hell, you even saw that with Abigail Spanberger the other day when Nick Minock tried to interview her, right? And he said, "What about this immigrant who killed this this family, this situation up in Northern Virginia?" And she goes, "Well, that's ICE's fault." What are you talking about? The Fairfax County Sheriff released this guy, I think 30 times. Was it 30 times? I think is what I read. And and that's
30 arrests.
Yeah, that's ICE's fault that the Democrat Fairfax Sheriff continued to catch and release this guy. Nobody. The Commonwealth attorney in Fairfax never tried to revoke the guy's bond, never tried to, at least fight to keep him in jail, or the judges in Fairfax never decided to keep this 30-time arrestee in jail. That's ICE's fault. It's just complete deflection, and you're going to see that happen a lot when their policies start touching people.
The other thing that shocked me, since you brought up the Nick Minock interview, this is the second time where this reporter, in a pretty important market, I mean, he's in the D.C., Northern Virginia market, millions of people watching his broadcasts, and the governor, and of course the little Ayatollah, Ghazala Hashmi, did it a week earlier, refused to talk to the reporter and really show no compassion for the dead lady and her family at all. I mean, I thought Abigail Spanberger had better, bare minimum, political instincts where she would say that she was sorry that the poor woman was murdered. But it's like they really don't care about the death of an innocent woman who did nothing wrong. It wasn't like she was a gangbanger or she was, involved in something shady. She was simply at a bus stop and wound up being murdered by this man. And Abigail Spanberger really has nothing to say about it. You've been in politics for a long time too. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, you really do lose your humanity in this job, because if your alliance is only to party and only to the politics, things start just looking like numbers on paper. And what it appears what Abigail Spanberger has done here is she's disconnected herself with the humanity of what happened here. She's adopted the Democrat talking point that white U.S. citizens kill people all the time. So, yeah, this illegal killed somebody, but it happens all the time. White people do it all the time. And, this is nothing more than just, a criminal act by somebody. And you lose that humanity when you start thinking like that. And you can tell that she's been completely surrounded by people that have really done that to her. It would have been nice. And I saw Governor Youngkin do this multiple times. He had to eat crow many times on situations with such people that he disagreed with, but he was a decent human being about it. And you're going to just see that shut down, deflect mentality out of them because their positions are not defensible. And, and if you even ask a legitimate Democrat, just, some real legitimate, smart Democrat who knows what's going on with everything. What are we really doing with gerrymandering? What's the purpose here, right? They don't have a defensible position. If they tell the truth, it's just about they want control of the House of Representatives. That's all this is. This is a way to get 4 seats and a way to flip the House, and this is and they can spin everybody up. There's nobody who can truly say Virginia elections are unfair. There's nobody who can truly say that all of the redistricting in all of the other states has made a material difference to the balance of power in the House of Representatives. This is just a straight power grab. And so they're just not going to want to, they don't want to talk about it. They just want to deflect. And we saw that, and it's unfortunate because I bet Abigail's probably a very nice person, a very decent human being, but she's losing herself to the political cancer that comes at that level.
Yeah. Well, the old saying of absolute power corrupts absolutely should be in the back of everybody's mind as they go in to vote on this issue. If you want to turn over the state to Democrats, where the only elections that matter are the Democrat primary, and no one else has any influence over what happens. Like if you're in rural Virginia, save the email. Don't even bother sending it to some guy up in Northern Virginia because they're not going to care what you think because you're irrelevant to whether they're returned to the Capitol or not. They're going to cater to their base completely. I think that's a real problem.
Yep, that's right. There's on this redistricting amendment, I've been messaging on this too, just as something to think about. They're going to have to close schools down for a day in Virginia. And, when you have elections, schools do the elections and they're having to close down schools. And so, this is another thing about Democrats that people should understand. It's a lot about checking boxes and quotas and all of this, right? And so there has to be a number of hours that kids sit in classrooms under Democrat rules in Virginia. And so because they're going to lose a day because of this illegal election, places like Virginia Beach, Chesterfield, and all that, they're going to extend school days by 10 minutes every day. Because they're going to have to take April 21st off. And this is not something that should have happened, but the Abigail Spanberger's Department of Education will not let these schools do asynchronous learning days. So we are literally going to lose a day of learning, and we are going to make it up by, in high school, extending the 4 blocks that high school students go to every day by 2.5 minutes a day from now until the end of the year.
It's absurd.
It's absurd. And, and these are Democrats care about kids and their education. They're just checking boxes. They're just adding the minutes up. Where can we squeeze them in? No high school students learning anything for 2.5 minutes extra a day. They are, this is just about being able to run this through. And it's par for the course for them right now.
Well, I'm glad you flagged that. That is a sign that we don't have serious people who are actually looking at the graduation rates and the end product, not to insult anybody's kids, but I encountered on a regular basis kids who can barely read, who can't make change. They're really kind of dysfunctional in society. I think they can spout the liberal talking points about transgender ideology and about how important slavery has been to the oppression of people in America, but they're dysfunctional when it comes to their role in modern society. And that's who the Democrats are delivering to us. That's a fail for us as a society. And you look at the violence issue. I saw some story about an 11-year-old boy who is now being charged with a crime, and the parent, because they didn't lock up their gun, is also being charged in the crime. I guess you could, depending on how you circle the tree on this and look at it, you could see that this is something the Democrats are obsessed about, how you store your weapon. But my question about it is these same Democrats never seem to want to lock up anybody who actually commits a crime. As we point out, the guy who killed the 41-year-old lady up in Northern Virginia, arrested and released 30 times, increasing levels of violence. They never want to lock somebody up, but they're all over this 11-year-old. What's your take on this case?
Yeah, so in Virginia, 11-year-olds can be prosecuted, but there's a presumption they don't have capacity. And so when we're looking at telling an 11-year-old, we're going to prosecute you for homicide, that's a very serious thing. Did the kid kill his sister? Yes, no doubt. But did he have the mens rea mental intent to do it? Certainly no, not at 11 years old. Now, the mom is in jail too, and she deserves to be in jail, because if you're a parent in Virginia and your kid gets a hold of your firearm, you're going to get criminally charged with that. The mom in Newport News whose kid shot the teacher, she's serving a sentence for that. The mom in Petersburg is going to serve a sentence for this. Parents need to lock their guns up. And I will say that in Virginia, We have gun safes. You can buy a gun safe, gun shop or anywhere, and you can write them off in your taxes next year. They're 100% free. So for parents who have firearms in their homes, loaded firearms, they need to be locked up. If your kid gets a hold of the gun, you're going to get criminally prosecuted. I have no problem with that mom being criminally prosecuted. She needs to be, because it was reckless what she did. But the kid, that is over the top. And that's in Petersburg. That's a Democrat prosecutor. And you're right. I would love to see how many people they've catched and released in serious crimes, adults committing serious crimes that haven't been prosecuted in Petersburg. It just seems like they are squashing an ant with an anvil out there with this kid. And, I mean, obviously that whole family's been devastated from these actions. But yeah, prosecute the kid. Let the illegal immigrant go 30 times. And when he kills somebody, it's ICE's fault. It's not even his fault. I mean, it wasn't even his fault, according to the governor. It was ICE's fault for not arresting him. Unbelievable.
There's something weird going on. The places where I would think that the average person would be horrified but have some compassion or look for some sort of out, not to just continue the destruction of a family, you don't find that compassion. And then when you see other cases involving grown adults who commit crime with malice, there seems to be an effort to bend ourselves into pretzels to come up with some solution that doesn't involve putting those people in prison. It's a weird dynamic. I'm puzzled where we are right now and why so many prosecutors, generally people with D's behind their name, are approaching case after case like this.
Well, you can look at the theme of the General Assembly this year. Out of the 50 plus bills that had to deal with guns and all the crimes, targeted people like you and me. Not one bill targeted criminals who use guns in crimes, to enhance punishment, to do anything that would make it harder for somebody to get out of jail if they get arrested. It was all pointed at making new laws towards gun owners, and all the criminals, they want to coddle them. Somehow the criminals have become the victims. Criminals should get out of jail sooner. Criminals should not have to post bond. They even got rid of this year. They got rid of a statute that said, if you are a felon and you get arrested for a new felony, that can't be considered in a bail hearing anymore. So for the purposes of producing a cash bond. So a felon who commits a new felony, that can't be a consideration of whether that person should have to pay a cash bail. And so it's just unbelievable how they're bending over backwards for people that, you're right, that are adults, that are committing crimes, that are repeat offenders. But then they just want to lean in hard for, towards a family like this 11-year-old who shot his sister, a tragic event. So it's unbelievable.
Yeah. I have a friend who lives right outside of Richmond, owns a farm, actually. Very odd. I would have never have guessed that he would buy a farm and actually go out and work every day on the farm. Interesting. He made a lot of money in another business, and this was kind of his dream to live like a farmer. So he's doing it. But I was talking to him the other day, and he said, I'm thinking of selling the farm and getting out of Virginia because he's got so many guns that he's collected over the years. I don't think he's a street thug or anything. I don't think he brandishes them or does anything to intimidate his neighbors. I actually think most of the weapons are part of a collection, in some cases, a part of a historic collection. But he's convinced, because he's so vocal for Republicans in his community, that he's going to be targeted by Democrats who seem to be taking over every place, and he wants nothing to do with it. And seems fearful that he's going to get locked up. Is he overreacting? What do you say to your clients, since you own a gun store and you do these concealed carry classes all over the state? What do you say to somebody who's got fears like that?
The cavalry is coming. We saw Harmeet Dillon yesterday with the Department of Justice. She's in charge of civil rights for the U.S. Department of Justice. Said we're going to engage. Gun Owners of America is spinning up to engage. The VCDL is spinning up to engage. Every single bill that the Virginia Democrats have passed this year is unconstitutional. And I'm not saying that flippantly. I'm saying there's precedents out of courts, out of the Bruen decision from the U.S. Supreme Court that will invalidate every single thing that the Virginia Democrats have done this year when it comes to the Second Amendment. So they even passed a bill that said gun shop owners like me will be liable for selling guns to someone if they misuse them. The federal government's already passed a law about this in 1994. It says you can't do that. Some guy comes into my shop, we run a background check, the state police says he's good to go, and I sell him a gun. That's it. There's no liability to me what he does with that gun after the fact. I mean, obviously, if he says, hey, I can't wait to go home and kill my wife, fine, then maybe I'd be on the hook, right? But, there's no liability. And they passed a bill that says we're going to be liable. That's all going to be set aside. It's all garbage. The Democrats even know it because in the Senate on the last day of session, they were asked and they said, the District of Columbia just invalidated magazine bans. What are we doing? And they're like, well, we'll see what the courts say. They know it's all going to get shot down.
So they're deliberately doing this. I mean, that's reckless. That's a reckless mindset for a legislator to have. I'm just shocked that the people we're sending to the Capitol are social justice warriors who don't respect the law, don't respect the citizens. And when they say things like that in public, I mean, that's jarring to me.
Well, it's actually, there's a word for it. It's called maladministration. When a government official does something so far outside of the scope of their authority and violates the Constitution, it's called maladministration, subjects them to recall. I don't know if citizens are going to rise up and start looking at this, but fundamentally, they know what they're doing is unconstitutional. They don't care. And here we go. We're going to see the courts shoot all these down, but the cavalry is coming. Tell your friend to cool off. Nobody's going to go to jail over these laws because they're all literally going to be shut down. The U.S. Department of Justice is rolling in. Gun Owners of America, VCDL, NRA, USCCA, the Second Amendment Foundation, they're all coming. And it's going to be a epic, very quick legal fight you're going to see courts just one by one knock these things down.
Now, I know you got to run, but let me ask you about this. I've got a lot of appointments across the state between now and April 21st to try to emphasize that we need people to vote no so that we don't get overtaken by radical leftists and that we continue to have a fair system in Virginia where everybody's vote counts and they have a voice at the Capitol. But you're doing these concealed carry classes. I've got my concealed carry permit in Virginia issued by the county that I live in. Do I need to go take another class with you in order to make sure that I'm not in jeopardy in Virginia or elsewhere? What is it that you're offering that maybe my concealed carry in the county that I live in Virginia doesn't protect me with?
Well, we're doing a multi-state class. I do a Virginia class and I do a Utah class. Now, the benefit of Utah is that Utah has reciprocity agreements with about 35 states. And what you're going to see in Virginia is they have passed a bill that is going to give Jay Jones the ability to revoke Virginia's reciprocity agreements with many states. This started back in 2016 with Mark Herring. It's now coming full-fledged to where Jay Jones is going to have the authority to start revoking reciprocity agreements. Well, when that happens, your Virginia permit may not work in a lot of places. You may not get to go down to Florida. You may not get to go to North Carolina if you're traveling out of state. So getting the Utah permit gives you a backstop to the craziness that is coming our way, likely in Virginia. I mean, look, I can't imagine that Jay Jones isn't going to maximize the opportunity to screw us over every chance that he gets in the Second Amendment. So with him having the full authority to determine if we're going to recognize North Carolina's permits or Florida or even Utah, they're most likely going to revoke Utah's ability to have permits here. So you get your Virginia permit, it works in Virginia, that's great. And then you have your Utah permit when you're traveling, because our Virginia permit, unfortunately, is probably not going to be near as good as it is currently right now.
Yeah. Well, losing that attorney general's office is going to do a lot of damage to the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I mean, I guess we should be glad that Jay Jones isn't talking about killing us and our children. That's one good thing.
Not out
just
loud.
An administrative
Not out
bureaucratic issue. Yeah, not out loud at least. Yeah. Hey, former delegate Tim Anderson, the attorney in Virginia Beach. I always appreciate the chance to talk to you. Good luck in court today. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. All right, we're back with more on the Reed Revolution in just a moment.
Just say no. Cast a big vote no. Take the time, make the drive, and go vote no. A no on redistricting is a yes to the land of liberty. Just say no. Cast a big vote no. Well, they say that they're fighting back. Well, we all know it's the same old hateful attack against all that's good for the whole country. While we was asleep, they got in power, and now we're down to the near final hour. Well, I say no. Cast a big vote no. Take the time, make the drive, and go vote no. A no on redistricting is a yes to the land of liberty. Just say no. Cast a big vote no. Youngkin gave us a surplus and these clowns raise taxes. And then they give themselves a big fat raise. It's infringement time on guns again. Infringement on common sense, my friend. Yeah, that's how they always represent. Just say no. Cast a big vote no. Take the time, make the drive, and go vote no. A no on redistricting is a yes to the land of liberty. Just say no. Cast a big vote no. Virginia shouldn't be East California. And there's more evil amendments on the way. Take a stand for your state, take a stand for your home, and vote no. Get it done by April 21. Just say no. Cast a big vote no. Just say no. Cast a big vote no. Take the time, make the drive, and go vote no. A no on redistricting is a yes to the land of liberty. Just say no. Cast a big vote no. Just say no. Cast a big vote no.
Wow. That is clever. Is that AI, producer Dan?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's our good friend Buddy Bishop, who has helped us out in numerous ways along the way.
I'm excited for him. I don't think that's his singing voice. So I don't know. You know, sometimes you run into people.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think you run into people and they start singing. And you're like, wow, I didn't know you had it in you. But I don't think that's his singing voice. And God, that must have been a huge endeavor if he really shot it with himself. There's a lot of cuts in that, a lot of different places and scenes, but I think it's got to be AI. Maybe.
Oh, I know that there's some AI involved. He used what we used for our show for the music, an application called Suno, I think, to build it out. But he wrote the lyrics and I think wrote the music, but just Suno helps with sort of orchestrating. I believe so.
Those aren't AI lyrics because, you know, remember when we were at the radio station, Jeremy, who worked on another show, Jeff Katz's show. I'll just say it, Jeff Katz's show.
Yeah.
I love listening to Jeff in the afternoon when I'm driving around. It's one of the few, AM broadcast I still listen to, but Jeremy created a bunch of songs, and he would put in a theme or a name, and then AI would create the song. And I remember he did one for me. I think the boss freaked out, and I wasn't able to play it on the air. We should probably get it because I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it made me seem really better than I thought I was.
Why?
Like, wow,
Why would the boss, without naming him, why would the boss freak out about that?
I think there was some question about the copyright issues. Is everything clear? When you work for a big company, like somebody could sue us. Try it. There's nothing to sue us for. I mean, you can't.
Joke's on you.
You're going to be really surprised. You could get a judgment against me. There's not much you can do.
Here's your dollar.
Unless they bring back slavery, there's not much you could do to me to get your money back. So whatever. But when you work for a big company, like the one that we used to work for, a lot of people like to sue the big companies because they figure that the big companies will settle.
Yeah.
There is one person, and you know what I'm about to say, but don't reveal it because I don't feel like dealing with this because this person's hyper crazy litigious. But if you utter the phrase that they are well known for on the air, I am told
yes.
that they will, that person has monitors all over the United States, and they will pay the monitor to report you if you use this phrase that this person has copyrighted, I guess, in even remotely like the tone that this person does it.
That's right.
And they'll sue you, and then they'll settle for some crazy amount of money. And a lot of these big companies want the lawsuit to go away, so they just like, here's your, I don't know how much money it is, but here's your check. Please stop the lawsuit. I mean, I think that's really bullying and abusive. Assuming what's been shared with me is accurate, that sounds very bullying and abusive to me. But
I did get to see him say that live in November of 2006 at the opening game of John Paul Jones Arena.
No, don't reveal it. We don't need.
I'm not saying it. I'm not saying.
I know,
who it is.
but I don't even want anybody to say we were talking about it. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
Want anybody
Good
to
enough.
figure it out.
Okay.
They very deliberately. We don't need that
We're not
person.
even talking.
We don't need that person even aware that we exist. I would prefer never to interact with that person.
Gotcha.
Ever.
Fair enough.
And it's not somebody it's not somebody in Virginia. So please don't take what I'm saying as a knock on anybody here. It's not. It's just from what I hear, they're so hyper litigious. I don't need any trouble.
Right.
So anyway, I'm not trying to beat up on you, but we just don't need.
No. Yeah. Well, we're not going anywhere near the phrase. No.
Absolutely not. Okay.
So
Let's see what we got. You showed a video the other day of the robots in China that were doing acrobatics, and it was crazy. I just couldn't believe that was real. That this was one of the things I was saying. Is this AI, or is China about to unleash a war on us with robots as their warriors? And I don't know what in the world we would do if these things are as great as they are. Then maybe at the beginning of this week, you showed the domestic robot that will, like out of the Jetsons, that will
for the Bachelor.
Now that I might be excited about, having a robot that will clean clothes and vacuum and be like, what was it, Rosie in the Jetsons? Rosie the robot in the Jetsons who
something like that.
Clean the house. And now I missed this. Melania's hanging out with a robot.
Yeah, she was walking around the White House with one, I think. So yeah, here this was the video of that.
So this is real. There's the wife of the French president, Brigitte Macron, foreground. And what's the deal here? Why is the robot at the White House?
I don't know. It's kind of bizarre. I don't really get the.
It looks a little unstable. The robot does. Melania looks great. She always looks great, doesn't she? She's letting the robot go first.
It's remarkable to me, regardless. I mean, this is.
And walking around the corner there.
Yeah.
So, do you think that robot was programmed to walk on its own, or was there a guy with a little joystick like you're at Disney World and Yoda comes up or something, and it's
that's
really
a good
not
question.
thinking on its own? It's a person with a joystick.
I don't know. Or it could be Anthony Daniels in there from Star Wars.
Pretty skinny in that version.
But
wonder what the
but
deal
yeah.
was. I got to look up whatever event that was. One of my friends did the president's dinner the other night in Washington. I got a buddy who came in from London, and he said, "John, are you?" And it's not Hugh. It's another friend of mine. He said, "Are you at the president's dinner tonight? The president's motorcade just went by." And he sent me a video. Boy, there goes Trump's motorcade on the way to Union Station. And I guess they had the big fundraiser for, I don't know, the RNC or the NRCC or something. But wonder what that event was at the White House.
Interesting. Well, yeah, there. I guess if you're in D.C., there's at least a semi-decent chance that you might run into the presidential motorcade at some point.
I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting to see the president's motorcade go by. I mean, I've seen a whole bunch of different presidential motorcades. I've been in them, but I still think it's kind of like, oh, cool. One of the few places in the world where you get stopped and the president of the United States goes by. Even when I worked not on Capitol Hill, but Obama.
Oh, did we lose John? I think we may have lost John, folks. I don't know what happened to John. This has happened a few times. Oh, John, are you there? Uh-oh. John, are you there? I think something went on. I don't know whether that was you or whether that was our soon-to-be former platform Riverside.
When did you lose me? I was talking about
you were saying something about Obama.
Oh, yeah. Obama came in. Biden was vice president. I worked across the street from one of the main roads that the motorcade would go up to take Biden home. And this was when Biden was still coherent. You know, I mean, he wasn't always brain dead. That's one reason why I was so angry that people acted like, oh, he's always been this way. Hell no, that's not true. I saw him when he was a senator. I saw him regularly when he was vice president. He was not. I mean, he was actually, I never liked him. Don't get me wrong. He was a leftist. And he was a used car salesman who was, hey, you know, I don't like that. I don't like that personality. Right. But he wasn't brain dead like he was when he was the actual president. But his motorcade would run these people over by accident in D.C. And I think they killed 2 people over the years, I think.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, you know, they just wouldn't. When the president comes by, they have a whole bunch of motorcycles, and they tell you, stop, put your car in park, cut the engine off.
Right.
I mean, they don't want you to run into the motorcade. They make sure that when the vice president goes by, they're not as worried about it. So I think people don't take it as seriously, and they kind of step out. Secret Service agent assigned to Jill Biden. Jill Biden accidentally shoots himself in the leg. Breaking news right now. How weird that we'd be talking about this at
and
the
that
exact
would come
moment that there's a story about that. Anyway.
Maybe that's why we had the internet hijinks right there.
Yeah, they were blocking. I don't know.
We can't have this on the podcast right now.
What else
oh
you
my
got
gosh!
for best and worst of the internet?
Well, let me see here. I had everything queued up here, but it is time. It is time for another Punch update.
Oh, Punch the Monkey! I haven't seen him in a while.
Yes, we need to have a Punch update here.
There I am with little Punch. This is AI. I like that picture. I just can't believe some people hated that picture. I look a little fat in it, but I am a little fat right now. So, but I think it's a cute picture of me and Punch and his little stuffed animal.
That's right. His friend.
I think.
His friend. Yes. So a couple, and I'm confident that these are not real to life videos. I think they're probably AI, but they're interesting all the same. Very.
You think
very
these
cute
videos are AI?
I suspect. But
okay.
But anyway, so. We have Punch.
It's so cute. I think you're right. I think this is AI.
Yeah.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah, taking care of his
Oh, that's very cute.
companion. Yeah, so yeah, making sure to take care of his companion there. But
Okay.
yeah, so and then this was the other one I had that I thought was pretty charming. You know, just and again, I'm pretty confident that these are
real.
You think?
Real?
I don't know. I mean, they're also convincing at this point, but yeah, it's.
I think that one might be real.
I don't know.
So
I don't
look,
know.
you can't trust anything. You don't even
No.
something that's benign and cute like that. I mean, I constantly ask myself, oh my God, is that real? Is it not real? What kind of world are we going to be living in where you really are not going to be able to discern anything? I mean, you
Right.
could have a scandal and you're not sure whether the scandal is real. That's already a problem. But now, you know, it used to be like, do you have video evidence? Yes, I have video evidence, Your Honor. Or, yes, you know, NBC News has exclusively obtained this video and we're about to show it to you. That doesn't mean anything. These days, who knows what you're looking at?
Yep.
All right,
It's
well, I'm
true.
glad you showed me that. I haven't seen Punch the Monkey in my feed in a while.
Yeah, a couple of those came through my feed yesterday while I was just surfing around. But yeah, and then back by popular demand, we have another baby Trump video.
Okay.
You bomb my country, you destroy my missiles, you hit my own house, Donald.
Ali, I gave you a deadline, you gave me attitude, and now you're a ghost. Very sad. Probably should have taken the deal.
I haunt you forever. I put a curse on your whole country. Gas prices go up, oil goes to $100.
That's not a curse, Ali. That's a Tuesday. Americans complain about gas prices when there isn't a war.
My Navy will block the Strait of Hormuz. No ship pass through ever.
What Navy? You had one frigate and we turned it into a submarine, an involuntary submarine. The fish send me thank you letters.
My successor will avenge me. My son will finish what I start.
Your son? Ali, I know your son very well. He saw what happened to you and changed his LinkedIn to freelance consultant. The whole thing's a disaster.
That's clever. You think the computer did that, or is there a comedian who's writing that?
I wonder. I'm getting these video from something I think called Baby News Network. But yeah, I saw that one yesterday. I said, "Oh, we gotta play that on the show tomorrow." So.
Oh my God, Dan!
And I was hoping for a Pittsburgh Dad reprise, but he's too depressed about the Pittsburgh Pirates to put anything out about how bad they are.
They already lose.
Oh my gosh, the 2026 honeymoon lasted all of half an inning yesterday. We have the best pitcher in the world, and even he got shellacked yesterday by the Mets, the Metropolitans of New York. But yes, so yeah, 0-1 to start the season. What else is new? But yeah.
Well, you know, let me share some breaking news that will be on the news tonight. But the Republican caucus just sent this to me, and this goes back to the oil reference in the baby Trump thing. So we're going from something silly to something that's very serious. You know, Republicans have consistently, when Glenn Youngkin was governor, tried to come up with a way to give everybody a break on gas taxes. We have some significant gas taxes here. You know, we're not up to $7 or $8 a gallon like they are in parts of California, but you know, it was $3.99 when I filled up to go speak about the referendum the other day. I was kind of like, oh my God, it's going to cost me a lot of money to fill up my tank. Well, today, House and Senate Republicans urged Democratic budget writers to provide relief to hardworking Virginia families by suspending the state's motor fuels tax for 90 days. Every gallon of fuel Virginians buy right now includes about 32 cents in state motor fuels taxes. This past session, Democrats claim they were concerned about affordability. That was nothing but a cynical hoax and a straight-up con job, said Senate Republican leader Ryan McDougal. So if the governor and her party are serious about helping families at the gas pump, they should join us right now to suspend the gas tax for 90 days. Virginia has surplus after surplus, enough to deliver this common sense relief today, and we stand ready to work across the aisle. Brilliant. So smart. And actually shows that somebody at that Capitol is thinking about how to make day-to-day life better for the average Virginian, especially when we got a war and the gas prices are going up. Now, I personally think that this is a little cost to pay to avoid
As do
a
I.
nuclear holocaust. I think, I hate it. I don't like it, but I'm willing to pay $4 plus a gallon if we stop a nuclear holocaust that kills me and every Christian in the Western world. I don't know. Maybe your judgment would be different, folks, but I'm willing to do it. But what I think that this is what Republicans should do is go through and look for every place that these jerk Democrats have not been willing to cut any tax revenue, any of the taxes that are on you, and call them out on it. You ran on affordability. You made such a big deal out of it last year.
Yeah, no kidding.
Come on. Show us.
Yeah.
All I see is you trying to raise taxes. So here's an opportunity to cut taxes for 90 days. Can you do that? They should do that. I bet you they won't.
No, but good for McDougal and company to suggest it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a.
So they just sent me that a couple of minutes ago. I think that's a pretty big deal.
Well, maybe Ryan could come on the show to talk about it next week.
Well, let's push it. And, let's turn up the heat. Honestly, let's turn up the heat. I mean, they made such a big deal out of affordability, and they tried to act like Republicans didn't care about that. And then they come in and start pushing 51 different tax increases. I mean, come on, guys. So this will call their bluff on it once again. All right. Anyway, I just got that, so I wanted to share that.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
I think that's it. That's it for me today. Yeah. Okay. Somebody says, bring back Tim's grandfather, Danny Murtaugh, to the Pirates. If Danny Murtaugh could come back from the dead and manage the Buccos, I think Tim and I would be for that.
Well, we should have had Tim on opening week.
Let's get him on. Let's get him back on. So
there's one thing he really enjoys talking about other than politics, it's baseball. So
but if anybody didn't know that, Tim Murtaugh is the grandson of Danny Murtaugh, who won I think a couple of ships for the Pirates back when they were a respectable franchise. So yeah.
Right. And people will remember that Tim was comms director for Trump's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
Okay.
What you got planned for the weekend?
I think a lot of work related to the podcast. We're doing some more beta testing. We're going to be migrating over to a different platform starting next week, which I think will be an improvement for us going forward. And I'm excited about it.
Should I mention?
You probably should.
That won't impact anybody directly, but we would appreciate it.
Yes.
You hear me kind of mention this at the end. We have 2 Facebook pages. One has 52,000 people, which isn't a huge number in Facebook land, but it's a significant number. And then the other is kind of stuck right at about 7,000 people. And I think you can't make money on this unless you get to 10,000. I think that's the deal. And none of this is clear. These social media companies, really difficult to deal with. But we're trying to get folks who are watching us on a daily basis to watch the program presented in real time on the Read Revolution page, the second page with the lower number, and boost that number up. So if you're willing to help me and Dan, I'd certainly appreciate it if you'd give us a like and a follow of both of those pages. That would be super helpful. And, of course, we're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. You can listen to the audio version of this on Apple and Spotify, wherever you download your podcast. If you've never done a podcast before, I think it's going to open up a whole nother world for you. In your Google search, put in Spotify podcasts, and then put the Read Revolution, and it will bring that up. And then you can download each episode. You can even make it so that it downloads automatically. And then when you're driving around, you can put these things in a queue and listen to me or listen to whoever else is out there that's doing a podcast. A lot of interesting people who aren't on Fox News or Newsmax or, the big network type things, or CNN, who are talking about things that are interesting. And they're not clearly, the fact that it's almost noon and we're running over, you don't have the same time limitations that you do. So, if you're driving to Norfolk or you're driving to New York or you're out in California, a lot of distance between one place and another, you can listen to people actually have a regular conversation without constantly being interrupted with obnoxious commercials and kind of cutting it short. I enjoy this long form conversation. It seems a lot more natural to me.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to the change on my end. I hope that it's something
I'm
that
sorry
folks
you've
don't
had such a
notice too
rough
much.
week.
It's this week in particular, I mean, nothing has really worked right. But the and Riverside's a fine platform, but just
Well,
not
don't
the
bring
the
'em
best
up.
platform for
Yeah.
us. But yeah, well, I was going to say something that we should say though is that what we are planning to do with the relaunch on the new platform on Monday is transfer over from the live broadcast on the one Facebook page to the other. So if all goes according to plan, if you're watching on Facebook, I think you're going to have to watch on the new page.
The Reed Revolution.
The Reed Revolution as opposed to the
That's
Reed
why I look
Revolution,
for
which
both
on
of
Reed.
them. Then they'll come up. Okay.
But yeah, follow both, but definitely follow the new one because I think, knock on wood, as of Monday, that should be where the live broadcast lives permanently going forward. So yeah.
Great. And then did you get us hooked up on TikTok too?
Yes, so it's an interesting situation with TikTok where we actually have to apply to be eligible, but I've made that application, so I hope that we
What's the
supposedly
criteria?
should. Doesn't really say.
I mean,
it just asks
when
a
I
couple
watch
of
TikTok, it doesn't look to me like they've
Yeah,
got much of a criteria.
it just
What,
asked
they
a
want me
couple
to
of Krista.
unbutton one more button. TikTok, unbutton one more
That's right.
button. Hey,
They
now we're ready
asked
for TikTok.
a couple of cryptic questions and just like, all right, well, I applied, so I hope that we get an answer by the end of the weekend or at least early next week. So, but yeah, we can with the new platform, we can broadcast on 6 different channels at once. So we should be on Facebook, X, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, and TikTok if all goes well.
Have you ever seen the little meme that goes out and it focuses on different people and it says, here's this person on Facebook and here's this person on Tinder and here's this person on Grindr and here's this person on TikTok, and it shows kind of the different
photos. Yeah, you
present yourself in different ways in different situations.
Right. Yeah.
You're always surprised if you see your priest at a bar having a beer, like, oh my God, yeah, they're having a beer.
That's right. Hold on. This will be me on. Hold on. Let's see if I can do it. How can I do it here? Hold on. This will be me. You know, we'll have like a strobe.
Now we're really in trouble, Dan. Now we're
TikTok,
really in trouble.
TikTok, Dan.
And
But
my
yeah.
mother's going to call you. Over that. She's not going to like that. All right, we should probably wrap this up. It's almost 12 o'clock. Listen, thank you so much for being with us all week long. We will see you back here on Monday. Remember, if you're in Central Virginia, you can go to the big rally at the Great American Ranch that Scott Pressler will attend, and Congressman Ben Klein talked to him earlier today. I think I'm going to try to swing by that. I've got a lot of stops this weekend. I may even make it out to the Daffodil Festival in Gloucester because there are 30,000 people who go to that thing every weekend. It's a great, fun festival. You know, we're in festival season starting this week all across Central Virginia and probably places all across the country. So hope you have a wonderful weekend. Follow us on Facebook, both of those pages, on Twitter and X and YouTube, Apple and Spotify, and we'll be back bright and early on Monday morning.